fabled heat, where magic meets desire. Subscribe to ignite the fantasy.
I sprinted across the alien regolith, the thrum of my boots a steady drum against the cracked stone. My Ogalop armor hummed, its ceramite plates warm against my skin, and every breath tasted of ozone and burnt metal. The sky above the shattered citadel was a bruised violet, streaked with the orange flare of distant plasma detonations. Sparks rained down like fireflies, each one a reminder that the world we once knew was crumbling beneath our feet. The battle raged around us, a cacophony of laser fire, the guttural roar of the enemy war beasts, and the metallic clang of collapsing structures. Yet my thoughts were only on the woman beside me, Jen, her scarred left hand still gripping the rail of the broken hull, her eyes fierce yet haunted. She moved with a grace that belied the weight of the armor she wore, each step a silent promise that she would not let the darkness swallow her. We reached the shattered hull of Gamera, the firelight painting her face in amber. The heat from the burning wreckage licked at my cheek, and I could feel the sweat seeping through the inner lining of my suit. I slipped my gloved hand around her waist, feeling the heat of her body seep through the thin fabric of my suit. Her pulse hammered against my palm, a wild rhythm that matched the chaos around us. "Stay close," I murmured, my voice low, the words trembling with something more than command. She leaned into me, her breath hot on my cheek, and for a heartbeat the world fell away. The scent of scorched metal mingled with the sweet copper of her blood, and I could not help but trace the line of a fresh wound on her forearm with the tip of my finger, feeling the sting and the life beneath. The wound was a jagged slash, fresh and raw, the edges still glistening with plasma residue. I pressed my thumb lightly over it, feeling the pulse throb beneath my skin, a reminder that she was still alive, still fighting. Our helmets clanged together, a metallic kiss, as we pressed forward into the inferno. The sound reverberated through the hollow corridors, echoing off the broken walls like a mournful hymn. Behind us, the enemy fire crackled, but the heat between us was hotter than any plasma blast. I could feel the weight of duty pressing on my shoulders, yet the pull of Jen's gaze, the way she let her hand linger on my arm, promised something beyond the war. We ducked behind a twisted column of steel, the metal groaning under the strain of the explosions. I could hear the distant thrum of the enemy's grav cannons, a low, resonant hum that seemed to vibrate the very ground. In the brief lull, I let my mind wander to the nights before the war, when we would sit on the balcony of the academy and watch the twin moons rise over the crystal sea. Jen would tell me stories of ancient star sailors, of worlds where love was not a weapon but a sanctuary. Those memories felt like a fragile glass, shimmering in the darkness of the present. "Do you remember the night on Lyra 9? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper, the words barely audible over the distant explosions. I smiled, the corners of my mouth lifting despite the grime coating my face. "You tried to convince me that the moonlight could heal any wound. You were so sure the tide would turn." The memory of her laughing, the sound bright and unburdened, floated through my mind like a warm breeze. She pressed a finger to my lips, silencing me, and then turned her gaze back to the battlefield. "We have to move, the core is destabilizing. If we don't shut it down, the whole sector will be lost." Her tone was steady, but I could see the tremor in her shoulders, the way she clenched her jaw to keep the fear at bay. We surged forward, the heat of the fire reflecting off the polished surfaces of the broken hull. The air was thick with ash, each inhalation a gritty reminder of the destruction that surrounded us. I could feel the vibrations of the ship's failing engines, a low, mournful wail that seemed to echo the sorrow in my chest. In the ruined courtyard we found a moment of stillness, a shattered column, a pool of glowing embers, and the soft rustle of our uniforms as we fell to our knees. The ground beneath us was a mosaic of cracked stone and molten metal, the colors shifting like a living tapestry. I could see the faint outline of a distant star, its light filtered through the haze, a tiny beacon of hope in an otherwise bleak sky. I pressed my forehead to hers, feeling the tremor of fear and desire. The heat from the embers painted our faces in a soft, orange glow, and for a moment the world seemed to hold its breath. "When this ends," I whispered, "let's find a world where we can be more than soldiers." My voice cracked, the raw edge of my emotion cutting through the static of the battlefield. Her smile was a promise, her lips barely brushing my own in the ash-filled wind. The contact was brief, a fleeting touch that sparked a fire brighter than any plasma blast. I could feel the electric charge of her skin, the way her breath warmed my cheek, and the way her eyes searched mine for something unspoken. The battle roared on, but our secret fire burned brighter. We rose, our bodies moving in perfect sync, each step a dance of survival. The enemy forces surged forward, their silhouettes dark against the flickering flames. I could hear the guttural snarls of the war beasts, their claws scraping against the stone, the sound like a chorus of dying stars. "Cover me," Jen shouted, her voice cutting through the din. She sprinted toward the central reactor, her silhouette a blur of motion against the inferno. I raised my plasma rifle, the barrel humming as it charged, and fired a volley of bolts that sliced through the enemy ranks. The bolts left trails of blue light, each impact sending shards of metal spiraling into the air. As I watched her disappear into the heart of the wreckage, a surge of panic rose within me. I could feel my heart pounding against my ribs, each beat a drum of urgency. I pushed forward, my boots pounding the cracked stone, the weight of my armor a constant reminder of the mission that bound us. The reactor chamber was a cavern of molten steel, the air thick with the scent of ionized gas. The core glowed a sickly green, its energy unstable, threatening to erupt at any moment. Jen stood at the control console, her fingers dancing over the holographic interface, her scarred hand moving with a precision that belied the chaos around us. "We have to overload the stabilizers," she said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. "If we don't, the entire sector will be consumed." She glanced at me, her eyes fierce, the amber light reflecting off the tears that threatened to spill. I stepped beside her, feeling the heat of the core searing my back. "I'll hold the breach," I replied, my voice firm. "You focus on the core, we'll get out of this together." The words felt like a vow, a promise etched into the very fabric of my being. She nodded, and together we began the delicate dance of sabotage. I placed explosive charges along the breach, each one humming with potential energy. The sound of distant explosions grew louder, a reminder that time was slipping away. I could feel the vibrations of the ship's hull, each tremor a reminder of the fragile line between life and death. Jen's fingers moved swiftly, her eyes scanning the holographic readouts. 3 minutes, she whispered, the numbers flashing in a cascade of green light. "We have to synchronize the overload." The countdown began, each second ticking like a heartbeat. I felt a surge of adrenaline as the first charge detonated, a thunderous roar that shook the very foundations of the ship. The blast sent a wave of heat rippling through the chamber, the air shimmering with the afterglow of the explosion. I could see the reflection of the fire in Jen's eyes, a fierce determination that mirrored my own. "Now," I shouted, pulling the lever that would trigger the overload. The core surged, a vortex of green energy spiraling outward, the sound a deafening howl that seemed to swallow the world. The ship shuddered, the hull groaning as if in pain. The enemy forces outside were thrown into disarray, their weapons sputtering, their war beasts collapsing in a cascade of sparks. The battlefield fell silent for a heartbeat, the only sound the distant echo of the core's collapse. When the dust settled, we stood amidst the wreckage, our armor scorched, our faces streaked with ash. The sky above was a canvas of stars, the twin moons now visible through the clearing clouds. The world felt different, as if a veil had been lifted, revealing a fragile beauty beneath the ruin. Jen turned to me, her eyes softening. "We did it," she whispered, her voice trembling with relief and something deeper, something that had been building in the shadows of war. I reached out, my hand finding hers, the scar on her left palm brushing against my fingers. The contact sent a jolt of warmth through me, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there was still a spark of hope. "We survived," I said, my voice barely more than a breath, "and now we have a chance to find that world you spoke of, the one where love isn't a battlefield." The words felt like a promise, a seed planted in the fertile soil of our shared experience. She smiled, a genuine, unguarded smile that lit up her face. "Then let's go find it," she replied, her tone filled with determination. "Together." The word "together" resonated like a mantra, binding us in a bond forged by fire, blood, and unspoken longing. We walked away from the wreckage, the remnants of the battle fading behind us. The ground beneath our boots was still hot, the air still thick with the scent of ozone and burnt metal, but there was a new rhythm to our steps, a cadence of hope. As we moved toward the horizon, the twin moons rose higher, casting a silver glow over the desolate landscape. The stars above seemed to pulse with a quiet promise, each one a beacon of possibility. I could feel Jen's hand slip into mine, her fingers interlacing with mine, the scar on her palm a reminder of the battles we had fought and the future we would build. In that moment, I understood that the war had not taken everything from us. It had given us a chance to discover what truly mattered. The heat of the battle had forged a connection stronger than any armor, a love that could survive the harshest of suns. We continued forward, the world stretching out before us, endless and full of unknown wonders. The future was uncertain, the path ahead fraught with challenges, but I knew that as long as we walked side by side, we could face any storm. The wind whispered through the ruins, carrying with it the faint echo of distant explosions that were now just memories. I inhaled deeply, the cool night air filling my lungs, and felt a sense of peace settle over me. The scar on Jen's hand caught the moonlight, glinting like a promise. "We'll find that world," I said softly, my voice steady. "One where we can be more than soldiers, where we can simply be us." She squeezed my hand, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "Yes," she replied, her voice a gentle affirmation. "We'll make it our own." The words hung in the night, a vow that resonated with the very stars above. And so, beneath the twin moons and the endless sky, we stepped into the unknown, our hearts beating in unison, our love a quiet flame that would guide us through whatever darkness lay ahead.